This is the Sony A7R V, and it is maybe the best camera I have ever used. But this is the Sony A7R VI. How can it get better than the best camera I've ever used? Turns out in a lot of different ways. So today we're going to talk about all of the upgrades, all the incredible things they put into this camera. And while it clearly is an upgrade over the A7R V, which is already incredible, is it going to be worth the extra premium that you would need to spend to pick one up? Let's talk about it. The Sony A7R VI is honestly incredible. There's a massive specs list here that we're going to go over. But one of the easiest ways that I've thought about it is that it takes the best things, all of the best things about the Sony A7R V, slightly improves upon all of them, and then takes most of the amazing things of the Sony FX3 and adds them together to make what for me might be the perfect camera. And the way that Sony is doing this is in a similar way to the upgrade from the A7 IV to the A7 V. They have completely changed the sensor here. The sensor on the A7R V is a fairly old sensor. A variation of it has been in a lot of different cameras, and it's been kind of hanging around since the A7R IV. That being said, this is still, again, an incredible photo camera. The images that I get out of it are some of the best. It rivals medium format in some ways, but they have made this into a 66.8 megapixel sensor. So a slight boost in resolution from the already more than you need 60 megapixel sensor. You're getting a slight boost in resolution. And that's kind of how a lot of the specs here are. Some of them are giant boosts and some of them are slight boosts. The obviously moving from 60 to or 61 to like 66, 68 isn't going to be a massive thing, but it's what they are pairing with the sensor being fully stacked and with the new processing that this camera can do that is obviously super impressive. I will also say that the A7R V here, it is the baseline. Once they added the AI processing chip, it made the baseline of what I think of for an autofocus camera work. All the pose estimation and all the stuff that it does is legitimately incredible, and they've just upped the game even a slight bit more with this, so it's going to be a little bit more accurate. It's going to be a little bit easier. And again, the speed on all these cameras, even like the FX3, the speed isn't the issue. It's more that the camera is just smarter. It just knows more of what you want it to do. I mean, it's improving on what is already more than capable. So pretty incredible there. One of the biggest things for me as a photographer and the way that I go out and do a lot of my like on location wedding style shoot stuff is dynamic range. The A7R V was already very, very, very good and like industry leading in terms of dynamic range. This ups it even a little bit more to having another stop of dynamic range. This is saying up to 16 stops of dynamic range. It'll be interesting once we get the actual files to see where it kind of stacks up. But if it's anything like the A7 V, that is already industry leading. It is on par with my Hasselblad cameras, which is absurd. The ISO performance is improved as well, which is one of a little bit of the downsides of having a smaller pixel pitch or just having more pixels on a sensor in general, is that those are typically more noisy. And for an older sensor like that in the A7R V, generally, you can clean things up in Lightroom and stuff, but shooting high ISO wasn't exactly this thing's forte of sorts. This is supposed to be significantly better, which again, as a wedding photographer and someone that needs to be in lower light situations quite often, is another massive improvement. And to be honest, if I was going to say like my biggest upgrades for my wish list of an A7R V, purely as a photo camera, I guess improved dynamic range slightly, improved low light performance. And the biggest thing is an ergonomic thing that I never see people talk about this, but it is one of the things that the way that I use this camera is a massive hindrance that the A7R VI has fixed. So because the processor in this is a little bit slower and because the sensor is just reading out a lot of information, one of the things that I've talked to engineers and stuff about is the fact that the viewfinder in here in video mode, even in tracking video, is great. It's incredible. It's like 9 point something million dots. It looks great. But the way that I use this is I use either front or back button focus. Mine's back button. And as soon as I hold down the back button focus to do some tracking, as soon as I do that, the resolution in the viewfinder and the back screen just drops dramatically. It goes from like a really beautiful, great viewfinder experience to just like pixelated mess. But it is a legitimate thing. It's not a settings thing. It's just a hardware limitation of the camera. Thankfully, the A7R VI here gets rid of that completely. As soon as you go to do some tracking autofocus, you do not lose resolution. You do not it does not dump down to the resolution that you're seeing here, either on the front or the back screen. It's just not an issue. And for someone that, if you're going to be someone like me that's going to go to a wedding and you're going to have this up to your eye for significant parts of the day, it is a massive experiential difference. It's not going to really show up on a spec sheet. I actually had to ask about it in the product briefing, and it's something that they said they fixed, but it's not even something that like shows up on this reference sheet or anything. But if you are someone like me that uses tracking autofocus and you've noticed that in your camera, it's something they have fixed here and is going to be worth spending at least some percentage of the money for me right off the bat, because that is just a massive kind of quality of life improvement on this thing. Now I want to take a quick second to thank today's sponsor, Musicbed, for supporting the channel. Music is legitimately one of the first things I choose when I'm starting a project, because it helps shape everything that comes after. I've used Musicbed on this channel for over 6 years now. Not because I had to, but I've just seen no other reason to look elsewhere. Everything is well curated, so when you're searching, you're not looking for songs that almost work, you're finding songs that already do. It's faster, but more importantly, it's just more intentional. There are also those moments where you have a really specific song or feeling in your head, and putting that into words just doesn't work. That's where their search tools have been huge for me. Between the playlists and being able to just search by reference songs, it gets you in the right direction a lot faster. And the music itself is obviously a huge part of it. It doesn't feel like I'm just pulling from a stock catalog, because I'm choosing real music from real artists. So if you've looked at Musicbed but haven't actually committed to using it, try it on your next project. It's one of the biggest things that helps me craft these videos into something that feels like what I'm trying to convey. So you can use the QR code up here or find the link in the description down below for a 14-day trial. And I'm sure you'll be just as impressed as I am with both the quality and the selection of music they have available. Now, all of those things are great, and they're good photo upgrades over the A7R V. But the giant leaps that we're seeing here are really because of the processing, many of which are in video, but some of them are in photos. And the first thing just comes down to the fact that this is a fully stacked sensor, which is incredible considering this is a 67 megapixel camera and it's a fully stacked sensor. And so you're able to get 30 frames per second in electronic shutter mode. It's not going to be nearly as fast as the A7 V, so I would not necessarily say to do any real action stuff with this. A lot of movement probably wouldn't happen. But it's something for if you are going to be doing like a wedding ceremony or something like that, it is definitely fast enough to do electronic shutter mode in things like that where there's not a lot of movement. And if you're not the one kind of panning the camera around and stuff like that, you do get 30 frames per second in a fairly usable package. It's not going to be perfect, but the rolling shutter performance is significantly improved on this camera. Now, as far as video goes, it's something that it's like my D camera, like if I'm doing a wedding, it is one of the cameras that I'll stick on a tripod or something. It's not something that I'm going to be using handheld a bunch. The rolling shutter performance is not great. What's crazy though is the A7R VI is like an incredibly capable video camera. And so for me, as someone that does a lot of photo work, but also does a lot of video work and obviously does a lot of things for this channel, it has finally become the camera that if I'm going to take one camera out, I'm not going to be compromising something on one side or the other in a way that I use it at least. It's going to give me the best photos of any 35mm camera available, but also the rolling shutter performance in video. I don't have the exact numbers, and someone's going to give me the exact amount of milliseconds it goes off of. But I did some just easy rolling shutter tests where I stuck the cameras on top of each other and just held them in the exact same spot and did some little whip pan kind of things here. And obviously the A7R V is not great. You're seeing a lot of just rolling shutter performance that's bad. I'm not sure how close it is, but the images out of it look almost identical to the FX3 in rolling shutter performance. at 4K 24 frames a second. Now, one of the reasons I have the FX3 is because it'll do 4K 60, it'll do 4K 120 in a small 1.1x crop. Turns out this camera does that as well. It's pretty mind-boggling to me that you can actually get a full readout in 4K 120, and it does the same thing that the A7R V does, where it does 4K 60 in a 1.1x crop, or you can take away the crop and get the 4K angle of view priority, which in that camera at least, and I'm assuming in this one, it just takes out the noise reduction. But a 1.1x crop in 4K 120 on a photo camera is pretty absurd. So I love the form factor of the FX3, and obviously there's a ton of reasons to like it, the low light performance, all that kind of stuff. But having a camera that will do 4K 120 all in one package, I'm almost always bringing more than one camera out, and this legitimately could be my perfect dream camera as someone that does both photo and video with a much kind of like heavier reliance on image quality in a photo camera specifically. But the 4K recording is like full pixel readout. We get a 5K oversampled down to 4K. Again, 4K 120, 4K 60, 4K 30, 4K 24. And all of those are full frame, no issues, no cropping, other than that 4K 120 that can be at that 1.1x, which again is what the Sony FX3 does, so not an issue to me at all. Which again, basically just means that everything that I'm getting out of the FX3, I am now able to get in the photo camera that I love to use. Now, in general, like the body is really, really similar to the A7R V. One thing I will note, and you'll see in a second why, the base plate does not actually fit on the new A7R VI from the A7R V. So it will be a little bit of a bummer for me to not be able to just transfer these over directly, because I really like having this extra little base plate. It gives me a little Arca Swiss tripod plate, as well as adds a really natural feeling extra little bit here for grip, because my pinky, typically will kind of come off the bottom here. They're pretty much the same size, have all that same stuff. But there are a few small ergonomic upgrades that are definitely useful. The first of which, since we've been talking about video, is a tally light. So if I'm going to put this on and film some video stuff, you get a nice little tally light to tell you, oh my gosh, we're recording something. This is great. So definitely a really, really useful little thing. Small thing that, maybe not a lot of people are going to notice or care about, but if you've ever recorded something or thought you recorded something and realized you didn't, you'll realize how important tally lamps can be. And then the other interesting thing is they've added only one other button that I'm aware of at least, and that is a little light indicator thing here. So if you're in a really low light environment, you can click this button and you'll have all of the little buttons on the back here illuminate slightly. So you don't have to pull out your phone or something like that to get the flashlight and see what the buttons are. This really isn't much of an issue for me, especially because the button layout's all the same, but it's something that I have, memorized. But if you are new to this camera specifically, or this model of camera, it can definitely be helpful. And it's kind of fun that it just has that feature. But the biggest kind of like headline feature of all this is the new battery, which everyone's been using the same Sony batteries for forever. So this is just adding more capacity. It is just a much smarter battery. There's a lot of things about it that are going to be really great. So if you're someone like me that has a lot of batteries, it's going to be a little bit of a bummer that you need to kind of upgrade to a new set. But between the new battery and the more efficient processing and stuff here, I've had this camera for like a week and a half, and I am at 49% battery. So I haven't filmed a ton of extensive stuff with it. I haven't photographed a bunch of extensive stuff with it. But the battery should last for quite a long time. And that's going to be really nice to, in the future, you're going to take the hit of needing to buy new batteries. But if they're going to last you a lot longer, then you're going to have less of them. I don't know. Generally a win, I guess. So again, this might come off as like me being some like paid Sony shill or something, but I've made multiple videos about this camera, have used it for every wedding that I've done in the last few years. And since it's come out, it was an easy purchase for me. And if you watch some of my Sony videos, you know that I've been using the A9 III for a while, and there's a lot that I really love about that camera, but a lot that it just never kind of like fit my actual use cases as a photographer. It was just a camera that solved a lot of problems that I wasn't actually having, and it's incredible camera, but this is absolutely going to replace that camera in my kit. When I was in the meeting for like the briefing about this camera, when they said it was fully stacked, when they gave all the video features, I was honestly shocked, because Sony had been in a place where they were like constantly innovating. Everything they came out with was like unbelievable. The tech was incredible. And they kind of hit a little bit of a lull here where, you know, they're kind of regurgitating more stuff. Nothing was really that exciting. For me, adding a fully stacked sensor in here, having all of the incredible video stuff, improving on low light, improving on dynamic range, fixing all of the ergonomic things on a camera that I love and still love and will keep this camera around. So if you're like me and this camera really kind of like scratches all those itches, obviously I will have links in the description if you want to pre-order one. But I will say that, will this make my work better? If I was just like a regular wedding photographer out there that didn't do video stuff, this isn't going to really make my work better. It's not going to take better photos. It's not going to solve a lot of the actual things for me. So it's going to be a justified purchase for someone that is like purely a photographer only. They do weddings. If they just gave me this with the EVF upgrade alone, with the ability to do that, I would pay a few $100s more to get that for sure. But do I need 30 frames a second in stills mode for anything that I do for weddings? No. Like things like pre-capture, those are great. I don't even mention that. I haven't even hit on that because it's not something that I particularly use. But the A7R V is already like a really incredible modern camera. And most of these things from like a photo perspective are going to be more like incremental upgrades. It's really in the electronic shutter modes, the video features that they're able to cram into here, and then a few of the other kind of ergonomic upgrades that are really going to be useful. For someone like me that does a lot of both, this is kind of like my perfect hybrid camera, and I will absolutely be upgrading to this, or I guess moving to this in some way, because my wedding kit for Sony stuff is absolutely going to be an A7R V and an A7R VI. But let me know what you think in the comments below if you do own an A7R V, if it's going to be something that you're going to upgrade, because I think a lot of pure photographers, while they'll be excited about a lot of the features, it's not necessarily going to be something that they feel like they have to upgrade to. Because again, the A7R V is already an incredible photo camera, and a few of the things that this is fixing for that might not be that big of issues to you. So again, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you're going to purchase this like me. Is this really the ultimate camera? I legitimately think it is for my use case, but let me know yours. And if you've made it this far and haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. I've been trying to get my subscriber count up for a while, and I know YouTube has this magical kind of like 100,000 sub threshold that I'm trying to get to. So if you find these videos useful and helpful, it would be super useful and helpful for me if you would hit that subscribe button. If you want to learn more about my thoughts on the A7R V, you can check that out up here. You can check out my video comparing the other current Sony cameras up here, and I will see you in one of those.